Believe me, we all desperately need this information, and we should focus on truly understanding it. We may have heard it many times, but understanding it once fundamentally changes everything. People often seek change in small steps. They try to work more positively, add a few elements, develop a new perspective. All of this is helpful. However, the line between what makes a difference and what radically changes life is precisely here. Because strategy isn't about combinations. It's about being open to an existential frequency. This frequency isn't a temporary mood, nor is it a motivational frequency. It's so deep, so comprehensive, and so unshakable that general data leaves no choice but to respond to it. And this idea, contrary to what is often thought, isn't a modern self-help fable. Its roots lie in both ancient wisdom and the cutting edge of modern science. Carl Gustav Jung's understanding of the collective unconscious, which he worked on for decades, is one of the cornerstones of this understanding in psychology. According to Jung, the individual mind is not an isolated island. Every person's consciousness is connected to a vast field of consciousness growing beneath it. This field is like a shared matrix of experiences, images, fears, and potentials. And we, often unconsciously, feed off and participate in this field. This is where the real difference begins. Because when you reach this field, not with superficial desire, but with concrete certainty, you stop wanting reality to be played. Instead, you give life to how reality will take shape. Remember the moments in your life when you did everything right. Moments when you didn't force anything, when everything fell into place. That's when you're not in a high state of mind. You're in a powerful state of being. Many people get stuck here. They develop the software, define their intentions, visualize, persevere. But still, the life they desire seems to be behind a foggy glass, seen but untouchable. This isn't because they are weak. The problem lies in the intensity of their choices. That is, in the depth of depth. Modern neuroscience shows that the brain is not just an organ that produces thoughts. It is also a receiver and transmitter. Brain waves operate within an electromagnetic system. Alpha, beta, theta, and gamma waves are the physical manifestations of our mental state. However, what is different for most people is that emotions and beliefs determine the validity of these waves. Moments of fleeting happiness create a superficial uplift, but enduring beliefs are the effects deep within the field. Here, a surprising intersection with quantum physics emerges. According to quantum field theory, there is no such thing as emptiness in the universe. Every seemingly empty space is filled with energy and potential. Particles are the local governing bodies within this space. So madness is not fundamental. The space is fundamental. This means that international reality is a manifestation of a deeper order. When the ancient Hermetic teachings said, "Everything is mind," they meant precisely control. The mind is not a structure limited to individual thoughts. It is a state of consciousness that resonates with the space in which reality is formed. Your relationships, your finances, your health experiences, they are all, in some way, internal effects of past events you carry. The reason is clear. The result is visible. Most people try to heal this effect. They look at their bank accounts, see the shortcomings, and worry. They look at their relationships, see the problems, and feel worthless. They look at their bodies, see the flaws, and seem renewed. And unnoticed, they continue to stay on the same frequency, identifying with what they see. But the field is neutral. It doesn't judge. It simply adapts. And its size reflects the amount you carry as more experience. The speed of change in reality depends on which plane you are on. The traditional plane is slow. It works with time, cause and effect, and delay. But the scope of the mental and energetic planes is limited. A decision made on these planes, an internal change, happens instantly. The only reason the change seems delayed is because it needs time to adapt to the crazy new plane. Nikola Tesla's quote, "If you want to learn the secret of the universe, look at it from the perspective of energy, frequency, and point of view," is an expression of this understanding. According to Tesla, human consciousness is creative to the extent that it can expand with the universal field. It's not about struggling, it's about adapting. Therefore, true transformation is not magic. It's not mysterious. It's simply about stopping struggling on the wrong plane and learning to move from the plane where change truly occurs. The stronger and more powerful your inner self becomes, the less resistance the outer world offers. Then opportunity arises, by chance. Solutions are developed. Life begins to carry you instead of pushing you. Perhaps the most important aspect is this: getting high scores isn't about feeling good. It's about learning what someone wants without questioning, forcing, or expecting. When this change happens, you no longer ask anything from the universe, because you have begun to speak the same language as it. This is where true transformation begins. Emotions, gratitude, joy, enthusiasm, hope. Yes, these emotions are valuable. It broadens perspectives, offers different viewpoints, and increases possibilities and differences. However, there is a critical fact that is often overlooked: the transient nature of emotions. They are dependent on their separation from the outside world. Good news develops, then quickly disappears in the face of an unexpected event. Therefore, many people experience short-lived moments of progress, followed by long periods of stagnation. They move on a strong but inconsistent wave. But strong governance is found not in the world you live in, but in the realm of certainty. Understanding this combination is perhaps the most critical threshold, because certainty is not a thought that requires compromise. It does not seek confirmation. It does not seek proof. It is the reality of distribution. Consider the chair you are sitting in right now. You were not created to hide there. You don't need to use your imagination to visualize this. Your body already knows it. Your nervous system, your muscles, your sense of balance accept this information without question. We call this certainty. And when a person can change the life they want at this level, a powerful vote emerges. This is where modern neuroscience comes in. Antonio Damasio's work shows that our decisions and beliefs are not just mental, but proportional. The brain is constantly reading its own workings. If it perceives something as real, the mind, no matter how persistent, will not adapt to the system. Therefore, the transformation of women occurs not only through thinking, but also through adaptation. At this point, a fundamental principle that athletes and musicians have used for years emerges. Olympic athletes constantly physically prove their performance before competitions. Brain scans show that the neural networks active during mental rehearsal are almost identical to the networks in the actual performance. In other words, the body does not distinguish between imagination and reality. The only thing it distinguishes is performance. This is where powerful voting begins. It's not about saying, "It would be great if." It's about saying, "It has happened." One is a state of hope. the other a state of knowing. One asks, the other declares. And this declaration is made not with words, but with posture, abilities, and reactions. But the difficult part of the matter lies precisely here. Because this level of certainty requires the entire system to be in harmony. The mind cannot move in one direction while the body does something else. Daily routines cannot foster the opposite when the soul longs for a truth. Otherwise, what emerges is not strength, but internal conflict. Think of it like an orchestra. If the violins play one melody while the wind instruments move in a completely different rhythm, the result is noise, not music. The same is true for human performance. Multidimensional harmony is necessary for powerful proportion. Body, mind, and consciousness must vibrate at the same frequency toward the same reality. Your body must reflect the identity you claim. Your posture, your breath, your daily decisions. The life you live must be in harmony with the life you define. Your mind must produce the products that lead to this reality. It must not be constantly interrupted by doubt. And your consciousness, your deepest sense of identity, must be part of the creative process, not separate. This idea has been widely expressed throughout history, not just in modern self-help books. Spinoza argues that man is not separate from the universe, but rather a manifestation of it. Goethe points to this harmony when he says, "The moment you dedicate yourself, fate also moves." Jung observes that standard synchronicities emerge when individual consciousness resonates with collective consciousness. On the scientific front, quantum physics offers a surprisingly illuminating explanation for this understanding. The double half experiment shows that the observer's attention affects the outcome. Attention is not passive, it is creative. Wherever you go, whatever possibility you focus on, the system collapses there. And choose according to the hidden options of the reality of this proposition. Nothing you experience in your life is random. Your relationships, your finances, your health, your opportunities, all are the product of a visible but extremely delicate cause and effect chain. And this chain doesn't begin with actions, as most people think. The chain begins with attention. What are you consistently failing to focus on? Is it the lack or the possibility, the danger or the solution? Your attention determines your conscious knowledge. Your choices shape your identity. Your identity gives rise to your beliefs. Beliefs create emotions, events, and actions in physical reality. People who miss this sequence try to further alter their healthy lives. More effort, more struggle. But this is like touching glass to correct the reflection in a mirror. The reflection never changes unless its source changes. True transformation begins with returning to the beginning of the chain. It happens when you carefully direct your attention and, guided by the power of change, harmonize all layers of the system. Because you are no longer operating from the physical plane, but from a deeper plane where change is different. And that's why some people's lives seem to change overnight. It's not luck. It's not magic. It's the growth of inner harmony in the outer world. Now the real question is, how often do you choose possibilities? I expect everyone to comment during the Q&A session. Everyone should express themselves. Like your body, you are not just a physical body. You are an energy being existing in a universe where everything is vibrating energy. This means you are not only influenced by your environment, but you are constantly radiating and receiving energy. In other words, you are not in a passive relationship with your reality. You are in constant communication with it. Therefore, follow along to the end, because together we will discover how to subtly manage this communication. This understanding is not new. When Aristotle said centuries ago, "The energy of the mind is the essence of life," he was actually pointing to a form that modern physics and neuroscience are only now beginning to express. All vibration is life. Nothing is static. Colors, lights, reflections, even silence exist at a specific frequency. The universe is not static. It is a constantly moving field of control. This knowledge of vibration was also known in ancient times. The teachings of Hermes Trismegistus in Egypt state that the universe is based on the principle of vibration. Some of the geometric patterns we see in ancient temples are actually visual representations of sound waves. In experiments called seismics today, we observe the regular formation of sound waves on matter. Therefore, sound is not just a choice. It is a shape-creating force. Different frequencies have different effects. For example, the calming and other effects of specific sound ranges, such as 432 Hz, on the human nervous system have long been debated. What matters here is not the number, but the principle. Life is a choice. The mind is a choice. Even matter is a vote. Electricity, magnetism, light. They are all different expressions of the same energy. The names may change, but the source is one. Ancient teachings called this source God, the creative principle, or the universal mind. Modern science calls it field, energy, or quantum potential. Although the names change, what is described is the same. Everything is a manifestation of transitions emanating from a single center and appearing in different regions. Electricity is the active manifestation of this power. And in humans, there is an extremely sensitive receiver, an emitter of this energy. When you become aware of this, not only your mind, but also your body begins to change. Because the creative principle works with your mind, your body, and your thoughts. As the Buddha said, everything that arises in your mind manifests as a sensation in your body. No thought is neutral. Every thought leaves a trace in the nervous system. This sensation triggers a chemical and cellular reaction in your body. The intensity of each person's personality is unique, and this intensity changes with their experiences. Traumas, beliefs, and limitations can decrease or increase this intensity. We generally live within the range that prevails in our interactions, and we call this normal. However, this normal is often nothing more than a learned limitation. In traditional teachings, the choices emitted by our bodies are called aura. In modern terms, we can think of this as a biofrequency field. An organ, emotion, or thought emits a different frequency. Therefore, an increase in intensity brings not only spiritual, but also physical and mental effects. It is important to understand human functioning not as a biological machine, but as an extremely complex quantum device. Cells vibrate. Atoms vibrate. The essence of atoms is not solid particles, but probability waves. Much of the matter that exists in our daily lives is actually formed. It is far less solid and much hotter than we think. Therefore, the importance of our thoughts is immense. Throughout the history of philosophy, the relationship between mind and reality has been extensively questioned. Kant argues that the mind doesn't passively perceive reality, but actively constructs it. That is, the world we experience is not simply what is there, but also a product of how the mind interprets it. Eastern chemistry is similarly characterized. Lao Tzu states that a harmonious state of mind allows one to flow through life without conflict. The famous chain of events gains meaning here. Thoughts transform into words, words into actions, manifestations into dimensions, characteristics into character. And character is formed from what we call destiny. The important point is this: like attracts like. This is not a metaphorical expression. If you are living in a certain state of mind, you attract people, events, and opportunities that are in harmony with that state. It's not enough to simply mentally combine the things you want. What matters is how this reality is awakened in your body. This is precisely what needs attention. Because thoughts, feelings, and words are not just abstract concepts. They all carry energy. Even a single word emits a specific frequency the moment it is spoken. Consciousness is shaped according to this frequency. The words you use frequently, the emotions you dwell on for a long time, the different things you nurture. All of these form the signature of your existence. And here's the truth: you create your reality, consciously or unconsciously, by choice or by ability. But ultimately, the energy dimension you radiate returns. Therefore, the real issue isn't what you want. It's the frequency at which you can exist. Now, I have a request. If this video has added something to you, if it has opened a door in your mind, don't forget to subscribe to be a part of this channel. Because here we talk about the real dynamics of life, and we grow together. Join us. Let's climb higher together. Scientists, philosophers, and spiritualists have been asking the same question for thousands of years. Why is humanity so fragile, so unstable, and so easily influenced? And today, even you are enlightened by the energy of the knowledge contained within this question. Because language is not just a means of communication, it is also a frequency that regulates the votes of our brain, heart, and soul. Consider this. Love doesn't just carry meaning in the mind. It also triggers an energy surge in the brain. When you say love, you feel more relaxed when it's released. Your heart rate slows. Your thoughts become clearer. On the other hand, hate creates a kind of data in the mind. Storage tensions, thought constriction, energy depletion. That's why some words produce a higher frequency in people's inner world, while others produce a lower frequency. But this isn't just a matter of positive thinking. This is a scientifically measurable energy level. 1. The mental map of ancient philosophers. Plato's 3 parts of the soul. Plato divides the soul into 3 parts: reason, emotion, and desire. These 3 parts are where a constant conflict exists within a person. Reason seeks truth, loves order. Emotion seeks meaning, desires depth. Desire seeks instant gratification, pursues fleeting pleasures. A constant struggle arises between these 3 parts to coexist within the same body. A person sometimes listens to their reason, sometimes to their emotions, and sometimes becomes a slave to their desires. As Plato said, the inner conflict of the soul is the foundation of human existence. And this conflict continues even today, because modern man, despite having more influence in the external world, still wages the same old battle within his inner world. 2. The power of existentialism. Camus and the rebellion of the absurd. Albert Camus, in defining the absurdity of existence, expresses the most fundamental truth within humanity. Life itself is meaningless. But Camus doesn't stop there. On the contrary, he says that people can create their own meaning. According to Camus, despite the absurdity of life, people have the power to rebel. And this rebellion is possible thanks to a high respect for positive outcomes. Because even if a person says, "There is no meaning in the world," they are still searching for meaning, and these searches make them stronger, more creative, and more alive. Camus' words are, "Even if life is meaningless, its meaningful significance is our responsibility." At this level, frequencies of warmth come into play. High frequencies such as love, gratitude, and compassion guide people to create meaning. Low-frequency emotions like fear, anger, and jealousy lead to loss of meaning. 3. Stoicism. Living without being a prisoner of emotions. Now let's look at another perspective. Stoicism. The Stoics argue that a person's inner peace is independent of their external world. This idea is revolutionary even today. Great Stoic philosophers like Seneca often say that everything is beyond our control. However, the control of our inner world is entirely in our hands. Seneca says, "Let not the sufferings of life allow the human soul to perish." In other words, he sees our emotions not as a force controlling us, but as an energy we manage. Stoicism does not advocate the complete elimination of women. On the contrary, it advocates a balance of values. Because a human being is not an emotionless machine, but they are slaves of slaves. 4. The modern scientific approach, frequency and consciousness. Now let's return to science. Quantum physics states that reality is an invisible order. This order is a kind of energy network underlying the visible world. This idea parallels the concept of choice distortion in humans. That is, your thoughts, feelings, intentions. These remain only in the inner world. They are effects of the outer world. In this way, high-frequency emotions not only make you feel better, they also change events. But this is not just a spiritual expression. This is a sign of a reality provided by modern science. Mind and body are an interconnected system. 5. The body's frequency, health, and energy. A person's inner deterioration is not only mental, but also a physical reality. Therefore, many cultures throughout history have valued their energies. In Eastern philosophy, concepts like ki and prana classify the energy in the body. When this is blocked, the person slows down and becomes mentally unbalanced. And this imbalance lays the groundwork for low-frequency weakening. Therefore, a healthy life is not just a physical routine. A healthy life is a life that allows energy to flow. The basic conditions for this are balanced nutrition, individuals, sufficient sleep, stress management, mental balance, because good performance allows the mind to operate at a higher frequency, and a mind operating at a high frequency makes better choices. 6. Energy and choice. The real test of life. Now let's get to the most important change. Every day, a person makes individual choices. However, these choices often go unnoticed. Choices aren't just about what is done. Choices are also about the frequency we expect. The emotions we focus on throughout the day determine the flow frequency of life. If you live with fear, life narrows. If you live with anger, life becomes exhausting. If you live with love, life expands. If you live with gratitude, life gains meaning. But this isn't just positive thinking. This is energy management. 7. A profound conclusion. The creativity of one's own reality. Now, putting this text together, the following conclusion emerges. Man is both the creator and the experiencer of reality. Plato describes the soul as inner conflict. Camus describes the power to produce meaning despite this conflict. The Stoics teach that inner peace depends on relinquishing the external. However, modern science states that the mind and drowning are energy systems. All these teachings converge on one point. The greatest secret of life is to raise the frequency of our emotions and choices. And this raising isn't just about feeling good. It makes life more meaningful, deeper, and more valuable. I wish I had had this knowledge when I first understood and grasped this concept, Bob Proctor. Because today, it's clear that having this knowledge back then would have made a huge difference to me, since almost everyone revolves around the same questions. How? Why? Is it really possible? And especially, how can I get what I want? The saddest part is that deep down, most people don't believe they can actually have what they want. Even if they don't say it out loud, their consequences, their choices, and their giving up clearly show this. Yet the truth is, if someone told me what they wanted, I could show them step by step how to achieve it. At first glance, this statement might seem arrogant, but it's not at all. It clearly shows the moment they first realized this. A very old recording from 1961 to 62 was accepted. While listening to Earl Nightingale's book, The Strangest Secret, we heard him say, "Tell me what you want, and I will show you how to grow old." I thought it was possible, but upon closer inspection, I realized it was surprisingly true. Because it really doesn't matter what you want. Whether you want a pony like a child, a Maserati, something simple, or to build a lasting and different life. From the universe's perspective, it makes no difference. Everything comes to you according to laws and principles. The universe operates in a much simpler, much more mechanical, and much more comprehensive way than we currently understand. Therefore, the more you study the universe, the clearer it becomes that it is not a complex mess of miracles, but a perfect order operating with certain variations. We call this what the universe experiences. That's why a person can change and experience transformations with a few hours of training, or even a few days of intense performance. Because the issue discussed here is not motivation, but the system. We will talk about daily frequencies, rates, and attraction programs because these concepts are truly the cornerstones of people's lives. It should also be clearly stated that some people are extremely successful but cannot explain how they achieved this success. This is called unconsciousness. That is, a person can do a job perfectly but cannot explain why and how it works. These results are common in every company, especially in sales. Some people make sales in a month that thousands of people make in a year. When you ask them how they do it, the answers are usually the same. I don't know, I just do it. This is the essence of unconscious competence. But my story is the opposite. I was never unconsciously competent. On the contrary, for a long time, I was unconsciously incompetent. No matter what, I understood why I wasn't getting results and kept repeating the same mistakes. Until I started to examine the details of these problems. From that point on, everything from my financial situation to my quality of life began to change dramatically, day and night. Behind this change were incredibly intelligent mentors. They weren't just successful people. They were also people who knew how they created success, understood why it worked, and could teach you how to do it. They not only changed the direction of my life, they also clearly showed me why and how they did it. A person who is unconsciously talented may not even be able to pass this on to their own children. Therefore, you very often encounter this situation. The parent is extremely successful, but the child is completely lost. This is because people don't know how their parents achieved it. They do this solely through their abilities. and habits cannot be taught. Therefore, by examining the details, the dots gradually begin to connect. Now let's bring these dots together. The first point is this: everyone wants to earn more money. Because if you don't have enough money, you can't live the way you want. You can't do many of the things you want to do. You can't pursue what you want to achieve. You can't truly live. Money is a medium of exchange that we use to buy and sell individual goods and services. Yet a large percentage of people don't truly understand how making money works. Estimates show that only a very small percentage have figured out how the system works. But once you understand it, it's like learning to drive a car. Everything becomes simpler. Think back to the first time you learned to drive. The clutch, the brakes, the gas pedal. At first, everything is complicated and difficult. The car shakes, stops. Everyone is nervous. But then a day comes when things change and choices are made without thinking. Making money is the same. It seems difficult at the time, but once you understand it, it seems difficult for life. People do whatever they want under difficult conditions just to make money because they don't know any other way. But when you really learn how to make money, you encounter a completely different aspect of life. And then freedom comes. Because money and freedom are separate things. Freedom isn't free. If you don't have money, you don't have time either. But if you have some money, you start deciding what to do, when to do it, and with whom to do it. That's true freedom. When all these things come together, you actually begin to live the life you intended to live. Humans are God's supreme creation. We lost this sleep while living in harmony with the broadcasts of other living beings. Instinct gave way to reason, will, imagination, and consciousness. When we learn how to use these powers, life changes again as clearly as night and day. In the past, a person's value was measured only by technological components. But today, a human being is not just a body. It is a combination of consciousness, energy, and potential. And this understanding changes everything. Let's really examine this. Let's pause for a moment, not just to hear, but to feel. You are a spiritual being. This is not a metaphor, nor a motivational slogan. This is a fundamental truth emphasized in different languages by both ancient teachings and modern science. Your spirituality, the structure at the core of your existence, is perfect. Your spiritual DNA is not flawed, incomplete, or in need of repair or healing. It is already as it should be. More importantly, it contains everything that is needed within this structure. It's as if it's been coded, sent as the essence of everything that has existed and will exist. Initially, it might seem exaggerated. You might ask, am I omnipotent? Do I possess all power? But the diminishing element here isn't the power of the ego, but the awareness of potential. As Emerson said, do the work, and the power to do it will come to you. So, power emerges not before the action, but with the action. This truth isn't about being everywhere in the world. You could be on a street in Phoenix, in an apartment in Singapore, in a port in Yokohama, or in a cafe in Buenos Aires. It doesn't matter where you are. That power, that potential, is there. Because it's not somewhere outside, it's inside you. The real issue is who you truly see yourself as. The truth is, a large portion of people don't know who they are. They define themselves. More typically, they live within the confines of the illusions they present. Now let's look at the options for learning this. Life consists of different levels of proportion. Each level is a frequency, just like cell phones. Each phone operates on its own frequency and only turns on when a connection compatible with that frequency is established. You are allowing someone else to intervene. You are communicating with them. When people call this harmony, it's sometimes also called magic. But it's not magic. It's the natural way things work. Consider the phone example. You might be in Toronto, and I might be in Buenos Aires. But if your number is saved on your phone, and I press the send button, your phone will ring. Mistrust is irrelevant. There is a frequency range. It wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, the commonality between phones was muffled voices. Lines were crossed because dozens of people were sharing the same particles. Today, billions of people have their own limitations. The same is true for computers, the internet, satellites. There are an infinite number of frequencies. And this is true not only for technology, but also for consciousness. You can also mentally access another person's trace. Today, we call this telepathic communication. Even without going into details, it is planned that this will be possible. A connection is established when they are on the same wavelength. People sometimes call this coincidence, sometimes attraction, and sometimes fate. But essentially, it's about frequency compatibility. Here's the key point. Everything in the extension exists in its own particles. Money, relationships, health, freedom, success. They all have their own unique choices. When your choices are respected, that thing enters your life. In ancient texts, this was called gold dust in the ether. Today we call it the energy field. The names change, but the principle remains the same. So why didn't they hide this? There's a simple reason. They didn't know. They couldn't teach what they didn't know. Some things you're told today might seem strange, even bizarre. But then look at your current life. Look at the money you earn, the people you live with, the freedom you have. The explanation clearly shows the frequency at which your current results operate. If you're not in alignment with it, you can't attract anything into your life. You can't call me if I don't have your phone number. If you have my number, the connection is possible. Energy attracts in a similar way. This isn't a belief, it's a principle. So what needs to be done is this. The extension must decide to become one with the thing. You must fill your mind with it. This isn't a wish, it's a visible choice. Remember, change begins in the mind. The mind, the magnificent mind. Humanity has long failed to grasp the value of the mind. Once, before the atom was destroyed, scientists estimated a human's chemical value to be approximately $32. Today, those same scientists say the electronic energy in the hydrogen atoms in a body could power an industrialized country for days. These images may seem crazy, but calculations show it. Buckminster Fuller said, "You cannot change anything by fighting the existing reality. Change happens when a new model is created that invalidates the existing model." And that's exactly what we are doing, creating a new model. A DuPont scientist said that the atoms in a human carry thousands of kilowatt hours of potential energy per pound. In that context, the potential value of the average human is measured in billions of dollars. So how does this value emerge? Through awareness. It only exists when it changes, because you can be self-sufficient, your own economy, your own path, your own life. This doesn't happen by chance. It happens through design. For most people, this is a figure in their own life movie. Others play the leading roles. and you watch them. But this isn't fate. It's a choice. You are the director of your own film. When you truly want what you want, you begin to take control. When you stop believing what others have written for you, the rules of the game change. And remember this: the electrons in the atoms of your body aren't just inanimate particles. They are living waves of energy. They move, they radiate energy, they create patterns of light. In a sense, they shine, and you are at the very center of all this energy. Now, consider this for a moment. Are you just a physical body? Just muscles, bones, organs, and a mind? No, you are actually much more. We can see this in the distributions of the physical world, even through data. You are woven with energy. You live in a universe where everything is vibrating energy. But this isn't just a mystical thought. It's a sign of a reality even modern physics provides. So what does this mean? It means you are expending energy. In other words, you are in communication with the universe. This communication is established not with words, but with frequencies. And I want to show you something very important here. Even as you read this text, something is changing in your mind. Because you already know the frequency, but because you haven't realized this, you are losing control of your life. Now imagine this. You are in a completely dark room, and in front of you is a camera with text written on it. This camera shows you as if you were an energy formula, a bright, radiant, pure form. For years, you have been shouting in this dimension. You are an immense energy. You work with frequencies. And here you are. Look at this radiant form. There are no limits to what you can do. As Neville Goddard said, our limitations will only stem from lack of attention and limited imagination. Therefore, the real obstacle is not inadequacy. It is giving up imagination. When you combine your thoughts with your imagination, reality changes, because reality is a part of thoughts. Let me explain this with an example. Consider what is happening in your life right now. Your knowledge, the relationships you have, your financial gains, your health care. The content of these is not random. They are all a result of your frequency. The energy you vibrate with determines what you attract. Energy attracts similarly. It's a simple rule. Now think about this in more formal terms. In physics, it was known that everything was determined by voting. Atoms, electrons, waves. Matter is actually a visible illusion. Quantum physics shows us that where a particle is located depends on when it is measured. In other words, observation changes reality. This means that your attention plays an active role in the emergence of reality. You are not just an observer, but also a creator. Now, a question. What should you choose to change the outcomes in your life? Most people say, I will work harder, I will strive harder. But this is symbolic. It doesn't get to the root of the problem. It's like trying to change your reflection by moving your body in front of a mirror. The reflection remains the same unless you change the mirror. True transformation is returning to the beginning of the chain. The beginning of this chain is your attention. Your attention determines your conscious knowledge. Your identities determine your identity. Your identity determines your beliefs. Your beliefs determine your emotions. Your emotions determine your actions. Your actions determine the results. So your entire life is shaped by where your attention is directed. Why do people often get stuck? Because they lack a goal. Because they live according to paradigms. Paradigms are thought patterns that control life. A paradigm, without you realizing it, tells you, you can only do this much. It says, this is the kind of person you are. It says, you can't do this, and you believe in it. Therefore, if you want to change things, you must first know, where can you learn? Do you know where you want to go? If you don't know this, nothing will change. To live your dreams, two things must be preserved: where you are and where you want to go. Then you must begin to move in that direction. And at this point, remember Earl Nightingale's approach. Tell me what you want, and I will show you how to get it. This statement is not arrogant. It is an explanation of a system by someone who knows the laws of the universe. Because the universe works in an extremely ordinary way. The more you study it, the more you understand that there is a law. And the law is permanent according to personal life. Bob was earning $4,000 a year at the time, but he had $6,000 in debt. Even if he paid off his debt with his earnings within 18 months, he still needed to reach the break-even point. It was a nightmare for him. But a man told him, change your results. Bob didn't understand, because people usually focus on the consequences, not the root of the problem. They care about the debt, but they don't think about how to make money, because no one taught them how to make money. And that man gave him a book. From October 21st, 1961, he read that book every day. He distributed the book. Its pages wore out, because Bob started applying the data in the book. The results changed. His income rose to $175,000 a year. He achieved this surplus not by building a big business, but by doing a simple job. Because what matters isn't the work you do. It's what's recorded in your memory. This example shows us that you can have anything you want. But first, you need to lower the frequency of your mind, because the universe adapts to the disruption you create. The higher the frequency at which you live, the higher the reality you attract. But this isn't just a matter of positive thinking, it's a physical law. So I want to tell you two things. First, stop belittling yourself. You are a part of the universe, and you are nourished by the same source as the universe's energy. Second, reopen your imagination. Because imagination is where the mind designs the future, and what you design will one day become the future. You are the director of your life. Your characteristics are the map of your life. If you change this map, the results will change. Our current lives are only the beginning. Real life begins the moment you continue to elevate your dimensions. Today, I'm going to talk about a truth that most of us don't have a different perspective on, but one that could completely change our lives. Don't think of it as just motivation. This is a truth that lies at the very heart of science, the human mind, and its fundamental workings. Now, for a moment, imagine yourself in a completely dark room, no light around you, just a delayed camera, and you're standing in front of it. Even if that camera is a copy of you, it reflects you as a radiant, luminous, clean form from head to toe. So, essentially, you are creating energy beyond your physical body. You are a frequency, a choice, a state of being. For years, they've called us great energy consumers. And that's not just a figure of speech. Humanity, science, spiritual teachings, and wisdom passed down for millennia share this. We are a system powered by energy. This energy isn't just within our bodies. It also circulates around us, in our lives, and in our relationships with others. And the most harmful aspect is this. This energy expands the scope of the concept of distance, because technology proves this to us every day. Smartphones are the clearest example of this. International telephone communication. But the real power is not in what we carry. The real power is not within us. It is in the software, servers, and signals that use the same space machine studies. Energy is not sent to phones. We simply touch a field, and the signals change within that field. Information is not transported from one place to another. This information is, in a sense, resold within its own field. We can access these effects instantly, even if they are not here at that moment. The moment we touch the screen, we interact with this field, and the result happens instantly. This shows that distance disappears when technology aligns with the fact that energy is a single, interconnected field. And the real revolution begins here, not forcing something, but remaining in harmony with natural abundance. Because the expansion of the universe occurs not through force, but through harmony. Attracting something is a more direct approach than catching it. Just like with a person, the closer you are, the stronger the attraction. Now, I will explain this harmony that completely eliminates dimension in a person's life. This person is living in debt, thinks they can't win, is hopeless. One day, someone completes these two things for them. You must know where you are. You must know where you want to go. And you must start moving in that direction. This is a very simple thing, and it's a fact that most people are no different. People dream, but they don't set goals. They dream, but they don't know where they're going. And then they say, life is hard. This person's choice was the same: debt, poverty, hopelessness. But one day, they learned a method that would change their lives. A man wrote the letter R on a piece of paper and said, "Let this represent results." Then he wrote 3 more letters, 2 H's and 1 AW. That is, happiness, health, wealth. And that person asked, "Do you think I am a happy man?" Then what surprised this person was, the man always had money. He had never seen him without money. There's something very important here. This person was trying to get out of debt. But because the goal was to get out of debt, debts were constantly on his mind. And the fact that he would be in debt attracted more debt to him. Because if you focus on what you have, you attract it. If your goal is to get out of debt, you constantly think about debts. This puts you in an endless cycle of debt. Because just like an electronic device, you emit and attract energy. We will discuss this in more detail later, but know this: the important thing is to decide what you want. This person was asking for $25,000. At that time, that amount was equivalent to asking for $4 to $5 million today. But the important thing is this: the recording of human data began. Climate change never stopped, because all they had in mind was debt. A door opened in the human mind. And this door isn't just about making money. This is the door that shatters a person's destiny, because setting a goal leads you to the price of the paradigm. Most people live their lives with paradigms. Paradigms work like a hidden program within life. People aren't even aware of this program. So what are the components of this program? A goal. When you set a goal, your mind organizes itself around a purpose. This isn't fate. It's a scientific reality. And this person did exactly that. They set a goal, wrote it down, and read it every day. And then he took a small step. He thought of making money by cleaning floors. But this isn't a great success story. However, this small step is the beginning of a great beginning. One office cleaning started, then another, then more. And within 5 years, office cleaning was being done from Toronto to London. In England, the income exceeded $1 million, and this person describes it as magic. But there is no magic, only the power of the mind. Now, I will explain this to you from a different perspective. This is not something spiritual. This is pure science. Because you are a spiritual being, you live in a body in the world, and you are in harmony with the material universe. Everything happens according to laws. This is not just a matter of the power of thought. This is a matter of appropriate thinking over a long period of time. Now, I will explain the paradigm to you. Before moving on to the paragraph, know this. The mind is not a thing. The mind is an activity. Dr. Thurman Fleet can express this very clearly. The mind is not an object. The mind is an activity. Therefore, it is not possible to see the mind. However, it is possible to see what the mind is doing. Therefore, an image of the mind is needed. He writes it like this. The brain is a personal organ, but the mind is the activity that organ does. The mind is like a line, like a circuit, like an energy analysis, and this flow carries you or the purifiers or is compressed in the same place. The large circle represents the mind, and the small circle also represents the mind. The upper half represents what is at home. The lower half represents consciousness. The body is the medium. So you are a system shaped by your thoughts, and thought controls your life. Now I will ask this question. Do you really want to take control of your life? Because there are two paths in these positions. First, that's just how life is. I was born this way. Things won't always be the same. This is the path followed by the majority of people. Second, I can live according to paradigms. I can set goals. I can direct my energy field. This is the path followed by the minority. And the minority are the scattered people of the world. You can join this minority. Only one thing is enough. Know where you're going, because that's what makes the difference. As you leave here today, know this. You can take control of your life. You can create your own economy. You can create your own future. And in doing so, there's only a lack of dreaming. You need to set goals. When you do that, the universe responds at the right frequency, because the universe is a mirror of your thoughts. If you constantly get into debt, you will continue to get into debt. But if your goal is wealth, health, happiness, the universe will respond at that frequency. Now I will explain something else to you. But this is not just talk. This is a path that can change your life. And if this talk touched you, if what I said opened a door for you, then do this. Set a goal and take a small step towards that goal every day. Remember, to live your dreams, you need two things. Knowing where you are, knowing where you want to go, and moving in that direction. It's that simple. But people don't do this most of the time. Look, in 1961, I explained the structure of the book, Think and Grow Rich. At the time, I only saw it as a book. But afterwards, this idea became one of the valuable ideas I learned throughout my life. Now, I will explain it to you, and please listen carefully. Because some people will laugh at this. What do you think about the mind? They will ask, what is this? But the dimension ends here. This subject is much deeper than it appears. This idea can completely affect a person's life. Think of it not just as a theory, but as a law of life. If you listen to our broadcasts for 5 days, you will understand that you don't just have a physical body, you are a spiritual being. Yes, it may sound very far-fetched, but this is not just a claim of absurdity. This is a truth that many theologians and thinkers have defended since ancient times. The soul can be everywhere at once. Ask a theologian about this idea. They will connect its dimension to it. Here I am, speaking not to people who only read books, but to those who truly understand theology. I was watching a video with a friend once. I asked him how many theologians he had met. He said 2. He said that both had taught him at some point, but he didn't know them very well. Because true theologians cannot be understood through casual conversation. It takes a deep gaze to know them. Now let's take this a step further. The soul can exist equally everywhere. This isn't just a matter of imagination. This is part of what the mind and consciousness contain. You are a spiritual being. Your highest aspect is your spiritual side. Your lowest aspect is your physical body. And between them is intelligence. Intelligence is the bridge that allows us to transform our spiritual world and our physical world. This is not a coincidence. This is a design, a law, a perfect transformer. Now imagine this. Think of a flower. Its color depends on another. There is no dividing line. One color ends, another begins. They are all interconnected. Reality is similarly structured. Each frequency is connected to a higher frequency and to a higher frequency from that. Therefore, what happens in a person's inner world is affected by the outer world. The outer world affects the inner environment. Now let's go deeper. The conscious mind is the thinking mind. Solutions are produced here. Analysis is done here. This is where intelligence comes into play. However, intelligence isn't the only thing people focus on most of the time. On the other hand, intelligence can be valuable enough because people generally feel the effects of what they experience. The subconscious is emotionally mental. When something upsets you emotionally, consider this. Did it really upset you? Or did your subconscious allow it? When someone tells you, you can't do this, it's not actually that person. It's your own conscious mind that accepts that thought. Because the subconscious has no ability to reject. The subconscious cannot distinguish between right and wrong. The difference between reality and fantasy is incomprehensible. Therefore, everything becomes real if you accept it. Therefore, consider the negative developments regarding the magnitude of daily problems. You don't have to accept this news, but most of us transmit everything to our subconscious, that is, to the mind where we store it. Our conscious mind can reject a negative situation by saying no, but we don't do that because our hidden mind is too busy, and the subconscious accepts everything as it is. How does this become a paradigm? To understand this, you need to go back to your infancy. A newborn baby accepts everything that happens to it. It has no power to overcome. The baby's subconscious is completely free. The baby's memory absorbs everything. When the baby takes what it sees, experiences, and feels into its subconscious, that's where the person's self-image is formed. And that's where the foundation for decay or destruction is laid. People without self-esteem don't take care of themselves. They belittle themselves. Their social lives diminish. And so, a paradigm is formed. Self-image is just an idea. A paradigm consists of many ideas embedded in the subconscious. These ideas cause us to behave the same way even years later, because the subconscious accepts directly. There is no ability to refuse. Therefore, most people live within a system that controls their lives. And this system is called subconscious programming. So how can these programs be lived? Here's the most critical point: the benefit of thinking about yourself. The ability to choose is good. It increases the ability to accept or reduce. You don't have to accept everything that comes your way. Think about all the negative developments happening in the world today. You don't have to accept this news. You don't need to dedicate time to it. I must be aware of everything. No, you should be. Let it go. If it adds something to your life, learn from it. But if it ruins your life, reject it. This is a form of freedom. This is making a conscious choice. Because as a human being, you don't just react to the outside world. You also choose your inner world. This is power. This is a responsibility.